Germany's starvation. Some historians have argued that German food supplies by the end of World War I were the direct cause of Germany's defeat, with starvation leading to the revolutionary uprisings in Germany and the collapse of the Kaiser's administration. Other historians argue starvation and food shortages were a larger issue post-armistice, worsening due to the German Revolution of 1918 and 1919. Either way, the Allied blockade of Germany had a significant impact on the health of every German soldier and civilian, and eroded morale. In many movies covering the experience of a German World War I soldier, food plays a central role. At the start of the war, a German soldier could enjoy up to 4,500 calories a day. They could expect daily sausage, bread, potatoes, and butter or lard. Rations included tobacco and spirits, or larger quantities of wine or beer. Coffee was also possible. But this quickly changed. At the outbreak of war in August 1914, the United Kingdom, with its larger navy, immediately established a naval blockade of Germany, which grew in strength, and by 1915 effectively prevented maritime neutral trade to Germany and the Central Powers. England's geography allowed it to effectively control the majority of the North Sea. Goods designated to Austria-Hungary's Adriatic ports were additionally blockaded by France's navy. Before the start of the war, Germany imported 0.85 million tons of wheat from Canada and Russia, 0.09 million tons from Romania, and 1 million tons from the US. Germany would not only end up at war with all these nations, it would further destroy its trading economy, which it relied on for getting food from the few nations it could trade with. More than half of Germany's exports pre-war were to Britain, Russia, and France. The Entente powers found other ways to prevent Germany from trading with neighboring countries like the Netherlands, where, for example, the Entente powers made deals to purchase goods otherwise destined for Germany for above market value. Germany did have some success buying American goods through Sweden. Sweden would buy American goods and resell them to Germany at an enormous profit. During America's neutrality, Britain made lucrative deals with the United States to buy goods above market value to maintain American support. When American ships destined for Germany were stopped by the British and found to contain contraband, the British simply purchased the entire cargo and released the ship. Britain was more successful than Germany winning over neutral trading partners, essentially making friends with cash. The Germans took a different approach. They more frequently used intimidation. Their U-boats raided and sank ships filled with goods, headed to the UK or her allies. Ultimately, the British approach worked best, with commerce being more effective than torpedoes. Germany's leadership wasn't too bothered about food supplies at the outbreak of World War I. German commanders believed in the Schlieffen Plan, which sought a decisive victory, attacking France first, through Belgium, then quickly switching the army's attention to Russia. Germany also, prior to the war, produced about 80% of its total food requirements. Therefore, it was figured any shortfalls in food production would be recovered from France and any other occupied nations. Of course, this would not come to be, and a protracted head-on large-scale war ravaged German trade and food production. Horses required for farm work were requisitioned. Nitrogen used for fertilizer was diverted to military use to be turned into explosives. Farm laborers were drafted. Bad weather during war harvests further drastically starved Germany. By 1917, a soldier could expect some meat, but only in about a third of his meals. Rations were reduced by up to 35%. By the last year of the war, 1918, meat, cheese, and butter were a rarity on the front lines. Soldiers behind the lines were further finding it more difficult to buy or steal food. Families sent food parcels, but these too were getting scarce, as major civilian centers became the most deprived of food. War kitchens were set up in major cities, but rations might amount to only 1,000 calories per person per day. Looting and food riots erupted in Germany and elsewhere, including Vienna and Budapest. The rationing system in Germany was poorly put together, and the government's attempt to regulate farms made things worse, causing many farms to grow unregulated crops that weren't price controlled. This resulted in unpredictable yields. During the winter of 1916-1917, a potato crop failure resulted in the urban population having to subsist on Swedish turnips. This time would be known as the Turnip Winter. Germany developed many interesting substitute goods to help mitigate starvation and morale problems. These goods were known as ersatz goods. Coffee was made from acorns or even beet flour. Everyday food from sausages to bread could have plant fibers or sawdust added as filler. Naturally, this did little for nutrition and not much for morale.
Sawdust.
Yeah.
The German army was rationed down at a slower rate than the civilian population, but by mid-war, it took effect on the troops. Men lined up at their field kitchens, or field food trolleys, often called goulash cannons, to find soup watered down more than the day prior. Their only hope was on days during high levels of attrition, less men might show up to be fed that day. During the spring offensive of 1918, when German troops took Allied trenches, they were shocked to find well-fed Entente soldiers with significant rations of meat. They had assumed their enemies were as hungry as they were, but this was not the case. As the last year of the war dragged on, German soldiers increasingly surrendered in large numbers and disregarded their officers. It's difficult to say exactly to what degree food shortages collapsed the German Empire, but it's hard to fight for a nation that can't feed its people. Starvation didn't just physically weaken and stunt the German population. Starvation also erodes social values. People feel less pride and are more likely to steal. It is estimated upwards to 500,000 German civilians died from starvation or nutrition-related diseases during the war, including thousands after the war in 1919, as the blockade was not lifted until the 12th of July, 1919. The mechanics of peace took time. Germany, for instance, did not surrender its merchant fleet to the Entente powers until the 14th of March, 1919. A quote from a German woman recounting the Turnip Winter. "We are all growing thinner every day, and the rounded contours of the German nation have become a legend of the past. We are all gaunt and bony now, and have dark shadows round our eyes, and our thoughts are chiefly taken up with wondering what our next meal will be, and dreaming of the good things that once existed." Alright, I'm Johnny. Thank you for watching. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling thankful for the food at my table after this one. Hopefully the video wasn't too depressing, and you turn up for the next one. Take care, and have a nice rest of your day.